Guys, the truth is there's just not many days like these in the content world. And so it is 11:12 Eastern Standard Time, late evening hours on January 6th of 2026. Several hours ago at this point, gosh, probably around 5 o'clock or so. Don't quote me on that. We learned of John Harbaugh's firing. This was not a mutual parting of ways. This was a firing that was ultimately decided by Steve Bisciotti, and John Harbaugh, the second longest tenured head coach in the NFL after 18 years, is no longer in Baltimore. 18 years, nearly 2 decades, a Super Bowl championship, a whole lot of wins, a whole lot of accomplishments. But what have you done for me lately? Underperformance in the postseason, a lack of execution that ultimately he wasn't directly involved in. But when you're the head coach, it falls under your watch. And because of that, and because of the fallout, and because of the nuance and the context and the extra reporting, the endless amount of reporting and commentary on what we now know is official, it's time to get back to it. I've got a lot of new information for you. I thought Jeff Zrebiec on The Collective tonight was extraordinary. He brought some great insight in terms of what led to an abrupt Ravens departure for John Harbaugh after 18 years in Baltimore. He was hired and plucked from Philadelphia in 2008. Of course, his experience at the time was primarily special teams under Andy Reid, and he came to Baltimore to turn around a culture, to reset and rebuild, and ultimately win a lot of games, which he did. And I want to congratulate him on an exceptional career. And as a result, he will likely have a hand-picked selection process in the slew of teams that are already reaching out to him across the league that have vacancies at the head coach slot. If you could, on the way in, please like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thank you to Preston Automotive Group for sponsoring this program, not only tonight, but all year long. It's my longest standing sponsor. We're going to open up the guest lines late night. I need you to help me and hold my hand throughout. English will probably go below the wayside at some point. This is the fourth stream of the day, and let's get to it because there's a ton of national reporting. There's fantastic local reporting from Jeff and what ultimately led to the demise of John Harbaugh after a long day meeting with Steve Bisciotti, the team owner, and that is where we begin. Jordan Schultz, NFL insider, noting that Bisciotti spent all day meeting with John. It was a, quote, very honest, very open conversation that was, quote, quite difficult at times. And in the end, like all things, it was just time. That from Jordan Schultz. Welcome into the best national anthem singer that I know, and Broadway's finest, and friend of the program, Samantha Polino. Sam, hope you're doing okay with this. It's bittersweet. As Femi told me earlier, former Super Bowl winning Raven Femi Ayambadejo, there is a level of like, oh, damn, this happened. Like, do you feel, and maybe that should be the poll question tonight, does it feel as satisfying as you thought it might? Because I do think there's a level of bittersweetness to this. And maybe even a little bit of worry that creeps into your mind. Knowing that it isn't always greener on the other side. And it isn't guaranteed that they'll have a chance to be a perennial contender like they typically have been more often than not throughout the John Harbaugh era. But that's neither here nor there. Let me know in the live chat. Schefter noted that in the first 45 minutes after Harbaugh was fired this afternoon, his agent received calls from 7 NFL teams expressing interest in his client. There are 7 NFL head coach openings. And that now includes the Ravens. So he's going to be a sought-after, highly attractive candidate, obviously. And literally minutes before we went live on this show, Ian O'Connor, who's got a great perspective for all things Giants, said that John Harbaugh meeting with them could be as early as this weekend. Scheduling challenges might push it to next week, but given that as many as 9 teams might be involved now, the Giants are acting urgently on this. They know the stakes. Let's get to Jeff, because the stakes were high and perhaps things weren't all sunshine and rainbows between Todd Monken and John Harbaugh. And Jeff did a great job of peeling back the curtain in what he refers to as a new role that John Harbaugh stepped into this year as the buffer between Todd and Lamar. Monken was brought to Baltimore to bring this Ravens passing attack and overall offense to new heights, and he did that. Lamar should have been MVP last year, and that means that the 3 seasons that Todd Monken was in Baltimore for, he should have been the play caller for an MVP in 2 of those 3 seasons. And who knows what would have went down this year had Lamar not gone down himself in the Kansas City game, which was the first of a slew of injuries that he dealt with all throughout his lower body, not including the back contusion, within the last couple weeks. The Collective was phenomenal tonight. I hope you'll go check it out. We'll open up the guest lines here shortly, take super chats as they come in. But Jeff Zrebiec of The Athletic had this to say from his perspective.
With the decision making here, I just don't like how it was handled, and everything about this points to something in the last couple hours basically changing, because by all accounts, most people in the building expected that John Harbaugh would continue to be their head football coach going forward. And yeah, I know it's something to do with the staffing. Like, it's very clear that John Harbaugh wanted to keep Todd Monken. Lamar Jackson, I think, and Todd Monken's personalities, I don't think meshed very well at times. And I think John was the buffer between the two for much of the year, and much of the last couple of years. He was the buffer between Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken. And it's not that they hated each other, Monken and Jackson. I don't want to say that, but Harbaugh was definitely the buffer there to make sure everybody was on the same page. And now, I think he thinks Todd Monken was the right man for the job going forward. And I arguing with that. They played great offensive football for the first 2 years, and this year was a struggle, but Jackson's injuries, which are just unfortunate, part of that. So, as I said, guys, there'll be more going forward that comes out about the whys behind this. I imagine John will do a group media thing at some point. Hopefully the Ravens decision makers will as well. But yeah, this was the whole John Harbaugh not being their football coach in 2026 is not shocking, right? I think we all thought there was, enough smoke here where this could happen. But the manner in which this kind of went down was a little shocking. And I know left some people in the building pretty disappointed in how this was all handled.
Just fascinating stuff there. And sorry for Jeff's connection there towards the end. It was, speaking of buffering, it was buffering a little bit. But look, you see the quote on the screen that I've transcribed from the Collective. Highly encourage you to go check that out. If anybody plans on sleeping tonight. Obviously, I went with, and by the way, welcome into all of my siblings. I think every single one of my siblings, maybe even my father, is in the live chat right now, mixing it up. So welcome to the Trossets. We're all working towards June 7th. It's a wellness resolution for us. Tori's wedding is June 7th. She's in here as Victoria. Tori, you need to update your handle on YouTube. And why is it that they only show up when there's breaking news like this, like once in a lifetime, once in a career type nights? Why is that? Quote, it's very clear that John Harbaugh wanted to keep Todd Monken. Lamar Jackson, I think, and Todd Monken's personalities didn't mesh very well at times. I think John was the buffer between the two for much of the year and much of the last couple years. It's not that they, hated each other. The manner in which this kind of went down was a little shocking, and I know left some people in the building pretty disappointed. That brings me to Ian Rappaport in terms of how the rest of this unraveled. It wasn't just Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken. It was a locker room. And it does bring us back to John Harbaugh and his component and what ultimately came down to Steve Bisciotti's decision to pull the plug today after 18 years.
Yeah, a dramatic decision did not come about in the matter of minutes, Tom. It really was the product of several conversations between Eric DeCosta, the general manager, between John Harbaugh himself, between players, soliciting plenty of opinions from players, from coaches. And yes, it did seem like John Harbaugh himself, to my understanding, was surprised, felt he was in good standing, wanted to run it back with his current staff, including the offensive coordinator Todd Monken, including defensive coordinator Zach Orr, planned to be with the Ravens for years to come until he was informed that he is out. Now, as far as why John Harbaugh is out, among the reasons, it is not just they didn't go far enough in the playoffs. My understanding, after talking to several sources involved, is that simply Harbaugh lost the locker room. But at the end, players just simply had doubts about whether or not they wanted to play for him as their head coach. The opinions of players, Judy, was valued here. It was listened to. It went to all levels, and it's not just Lamar Jackson. Now, it sounded like to me, with Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson not being on the same page, and it continued throughout the locker room, maybe not 100%, but more than enough for the Baltimore Ravens to say among the reasons to move on, this was a big one. John Harbaugh, of course, out now as Ravens coach.
So there you have it. There'll be a lot made of what you see up on the screen, right, which matches up with other reporting as well. Jeff's on top of this more than anybody else from a local feel standpoint. But the fact that Rappaport is reporting that this wasn't just a rift between play caller and quarterback, that John Harbaugh, at least a portion, right, at least from a percentage standpoint, had lost the locker room. And that's where this gets to the bigger issue that comes back around to understanding why, how Steve Bisciotti came to the decision that he did. The lost locker room, the underperformance, the rift between and the disconnect perhaps between play caller and quarterback. And ultimately now the Ravens search for their next head coach and their fourth in franchise history is set to begin. Richard writes, this is for your Celsius/Red Bull/Monster needs. I'm definitely starting to lose the ability to form coherent sentences. Zayad writes, Monken is the Harbaugh PR scapegoat. Aiden and Monk are cool. CJ Lavender says, we have been through enough heartbreak in Baltimore sports over the past 12 to 13 years. The last thing I want to see is Harbs be the next Andy Reid. Reid was viewed as an underachiever in Philly. I love Harbs, but it's time. Captain writes, running it back with Zach Orr is a fireable offense. And remember, important to note that whoever that head coach ends up being, John Harbaugh's successor when it's all said and done, likely will bring in and overhaul the staff. Bring in his own staff and overhaul what they have. Certainly notable to go back to the offseason when Steve Bisciotti and John Harbaugh sat next to one another, shoulder to shoulder, in a team-controlled media interview with Garrett Downing of Ravens Productions. And the snippet that got a whole lot of traction sounded like this.
For the next 30 years of Baltimore Ravens football.
I want to win now. Right. I don't give a damn about 30 years from now. I really don't. I want to win now. I want to win with these guys.
All we're really thinking about
is championships.
Yeah, we weren't talking about any of this other stuff.
We're pissed.
We're talking about let's get this done.
Yeah.
You know?
Can we build an offense around Lamar? Well, that's the question. It's like, well, you can if you do it right.
To make that decision at the time, it was considered a risk.
I don't even look at it as a risk, really. I don't like that word because if it failed, we failed. It wasn't that Lamar failed.
It's a matter of when, not if, he wins that Super Bowl. How badly, I guess, do you want it for Lamar?
Can't even put it into words. Can't even express it. It's like so deep. It's so deep inside. Such a desire, just such a determination to get it done. For really, you're right. For Lamar, for all the guys. I mean, every single person in that locker room.
Boy, is that fantastic! It's just looking back at that now. First of all, it was notable then because Steve Bisciotti has not made himself available or visible outside of owners' meetings, scrums, and an off-camera type of formatting in years. So that's for one. And two, to hear those words from John Harbaugh, now on the outside looking in, wow. If we knew then what we now know now. Diana Rossini, The Athletic, reporting that Harbaugh has interest from most teams with head coaching vacancies, but notably, she's told that calls are also coming in from a few teams that currently have a head coach in place. Lots of discussions going down tonight. Harbaugh will be at the top of many teams' wish lists. Now, again, not everybody is universally in agreement with the Ravens' decision. Tony Dungy, former Super Bowl winning head coach, NBC analyst, Hall of Famer, took the Ravens to task. I can't believe what things have come to in the NFL. John Harbaugh has coached the Baltimore Ravens for 18 years. He took them to the playoffs 12 times. He won a Super Bowl for them. The last 4 years, they were 10-7, 13-4, 12-5, now 8-9. They made the playoffs 3 straight years and missed this year because their kicker missed the game-winning field goal on the last play of the season, and he was fired. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Good luck, Baltimore, in finding a better coach. And guys, look, while I respect the Hall of Famer, no doubt, and there certainly is a level, a sense within you, in the pit of your stomach, as this starts to set in as reality, that it's not a guarantee, even though the core is intact from a roster construction standpoint with plenty of voids that have to be addressed and filled, don't get me wrong, between now and September. But there is a level of like, okay, the guy at the top, who's been at the top for 18 years, Mr. Culture himself, Mr. Hiring Manager, the glue, with him no longer there is that level of like, how much does that change the overall operation? And then, of course, maybe after a night's sleep, you wake up and say, pending an extension, so long as Lamar Jackson's in Baltimore, everything will be intact and everything will stand a chance. But I think what Coach Dungy is overlooking is what's become ingrained with the Ravens, what their reputation is, who they've become under John Harbaugh throughout the Lamar Jackson era. It's a team that often, rather disturbingly, in a trend that has plagued them for years, cannot hold on to leads, cannot close out games. High leverage moments, they've come up short. And it's not just the Tyler Loops of the world, it's some of their better players. Zay Flowers in the AFC Championship game. Mark Andrews in the divisional round. Lamar Jackson earlier on in his playoff career, even though he's put together legacy-defining fourth quarters, even second halves, the last 2 years in the divisional round. And, of course, this year in the regular season winner-take-all finale in Pittsburgh. And I could go on and on. We could talk about game management and clock management woes, mismanagement, if you will. That has become ingrained with the Ravens. It's become a shortcoming. It's become their Achilles heel. And it's all happened under John Harbaugh's watch, leading most within the fan base to believe that change could be a necessary evil to get this team to where they've yet to go in the Lamar era and get over that hump, so to speak, and find a way to keep your identity, embrace your identity, stick by your identity, and ultimately execute with your identity channeled in the postseason when it matters. Some super chats have come in. Rye Young says, reading the tea leaves, it seems like one of the most important factors will be finding a personality that will mesh with Lamar. Still got to be a head coach. Dark Thunder 35 says the team checked out of Harbaugh after week 1. Their body language from that point was terrible, and Harbaugh was extremely stressed. Albatross says, I want Clint Kubiak or Mike LaFleur. What about you? I think earlier on, and I'm going to dig into this further, but I think there's a lot to like about Robert Saleh. I think he got a raw deal in New York with the Jets. Certainly is a tremendous defensive mind. Sean Cole says, remember the power outage? Shaking my head. And I am about to become extremely honest with you guys. And I'm about to have 2 people take over the show because the Chinese that I ate from Uber Eats, yeah. I'm dead ass. So who wants to host the show? I need 5 minutes. Son of a bitch. Wow. Yeah. Yep, we're going to have a couple people coming into the show right now. Who wants it? Richard, I know I can trust you. Maurice, I know I can trust you. Bentley.
Right here.
All right, gentlemen. Christian, you guys are tasked with something extremely important tonight.
What's up, fellas?
Don, let's get you involved.
What up? What up? All
right, gentlemen. What is that capacity right now? I need 5 minutes. Richard is the longest tenured.
Take your time,
You're hosting for the next couple minutes. So please, and whoever has any background noise, if you could mute that for me so that no one's getting echoes or anything like that. And when you're not talking, mute. Colitis at its finest. And we're keeping the conversation, obviously, about the next head coach in Baltimore because the search is on. And the search for me to walk around the corner is about to be search and rescue if I don't get up now. So, Richard, take it away. Your next head coach, set the scene for who you think would best succeed John Harbaugh in Baltimore. I've got a lot more to get to, including national reporting, more from Jeff, and a number of other things. I'll be right back.
All right, Bobby, you take care of business, man. I mean, for me, I said it before, and I'll say it again. My go-to picks would be either Robert Saleh or Brian Flores. And the reasons why I'm about to start with Robert Saleh. So someone coming from the Kyle Shanahan tree. So you're talking about someone who has access to, maybe not offensive coordinators currently, but folks who can definitely be offensive coordinators from the 49ers. And then you have the fact that Fred Warner and Bosa were injured, season-ending injuries this year, and they're still not a bad defense. They did not fold, losing legitimately probably 2 of the best defensive players on the team. So that tells me that he can work with what he has and still make it work out in the end, which is not what we were able to do this year. So those are my, and then also, honestly, the Jets is a shit show. That's not you can't take that as, a litmus test for how he'll be in Baltimore. Now for Brian Flores, for him, I'm seeing somebody who has a really strong command of the defense. I'm not sure about who he has from an offensive coordinator standpoint. I do think that he has some connections established from the NFC North. So you're talking about teams like potentially Green Bay, potentially Detroit, potentially Minnesota, potentially Chicago, which are all good teams. The fact of the matter is the NFL today, there may be a rivalry, but it doesn't mean that they're not establishing the networking, creating connections. So they see each other twice a year. He can grab something from one of the other teams. Now, when you talk about his stint in the Dolphins, he was over 500 for the 2 times that he was there, and they did not do that since 2003. And we recall when he was there. So it wasn't like this was ancient history or anything like that. So, I think he will bring back the Smash Mouth style of football. I think he'll, make the team have a pair of balls again when on the field. I don't mean to take up this entire conversation, but those are the reasons why I'm choosing those two people. I'll let whoever wants to go next to go and talk about whoever they want.
Just go in that circle right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So here's my list for the coaching candidates. So I do have Brian Flores at the top of my list because I do feel like this Ravens team, they do need a coach that has, an attitude or the backbone, because let's just be honest, with this Ravens defense, not only that they lost like their backbone, but like they also lost, like their aggressiveness they once had on the defensive side of the ball. If you think about where the Ravens organization all started, where they started from the ground up in '96, it's like their identity has always been a stout defense. Like it all started with Marvin Lewis as a defensive coordinator, and then it also started with the likes of Ray Lewis and even a few veteran guys back then, like for example Mike Caldwell and Eric Turner, who followed the team from Cleveland to Baltimore. So like if you look at the Ravens organization from 1996 all the way up until now, it's actually mesmerizing how this organization came a long way. But like I do feel like Brian Flores would be a perfect suit for this team as head coach. It's like this is a guy who is very familiar with, operating with the defense, and he's done a pretty good job in my opinion. Was he with Minnesota or Miami, if memory serves correctly? But look, truth be told, everybody realizes that change is needed in the Ravens organization. And for John Harbaugh, I'll be honest, with John Harbaugh, the writing has been on the wall, always been on the wall after the 2018 season. So another thing is this: I've already knew that John Harbaugh's time here in Baltimore would be up. I knew it was going to be over sometime soon, but oh hell, I didn't think it would end this time. Like I didn't think it would end this soon. Literally a day after our loss to Pittsburgh, it's like there was mixed feelings about the departure of John Harbaugh, but like I'm pretty much all board with the departure. Like a change within the coaching staff is needed. Not only that, but a culture change is also needed. But that's where I stand on the departure of John Harbaugh. Maybe it's for the better.
Thank you for your commentary, brother. I listened to every single second of it from around the corner, and won't live that one down. Appreciate you for auditioning for future hosting gigs in the month of July when we go dark for the entire month, because I want to be in Australia. I'll talk to you soon. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Maurice. Thank you. Appreciate you. Every single person that I brought up on there in our 6-person circle will be coming back on. Don't worry. And Richard, thank you for getting us started there. Yeah, that was some of the worst Chinese that I've ever had in my life. I can't eat Chinese to begin with. I think you guys probably have known that about me. And I never use Uber Eats. And at 10 o'clock, I look down and I'm like, well, I haven't eaten since like lunch after the vault. What do you think was open at 10 o'clock in St. Pete? Some shit Chinese. And we're going to leave it at that. Back to the content. My sincere apologies. Tom Pelissero, NFL Network. Back to the national side of things.
There's two sides to this. One, John Harbaugh is in his early 60s. Having a coach at that phase in their career is not going to be for everyone. There are some teams that philosophically, and every team has their own criteria, are going to be looking for someone who might have, let's call it, a longer runway, so to speak. On the flip side of that, there is no other John Harbaugh that is currently available. Mike McCarthy certainly is a highly accomplished coach with a Super Bowl win. He's been to the playoffs 2/3 of his seasons, won over 60% of his games. John Harbaugh is in that same type of a category. And so I absolutely can guarantee you there are teams that have made coaching changes, maybe even some teams that have not made coaching changes, that are looking at this now and reconsidering exactly what their tact was going to be, knowing that John Harbaugh is available. Now, go back to John Harbaugh's background. He was predominantly a special teams coach, had some exposure on offense, but what he has been in Baltimore has been a team builder and a staff builder. We have seen him hire really good assistant coaches, guys like Mike McDonald, who has now got the #1 seed in Seattle. Jesse Minter was a part of his staff, now the Chargers defensive coordinator and quite possibly going to be a head coaching candidate. On the offensive side of the ball, they've had significant turnover. They had Marty Mornhinweg. They had Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator. They had Todd Monken, of course, in the past several years here. But they have not had an offensive-style head coach since the only other head coach that Steve Bisciotti has employed, which was Brian Billick, our former NFL Network colleague and another Super Bowl winner. That's 2 decades ago here. There could be intrigue potentially in seeking out one of those young, offensive-minded head coaches. We've seen the likes of Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator, getting a bunch of interview slips early in the cycle. You can imagine who are the other coaches who have had success with a quarterback with a diverse type of a skill set. Joe Brady in Buffalo comes to mind. Matt Nagy with the Chiefs as well. And Ian, I just brought up a name when you're thinking about some of the guys who have been there in the past. Jesse Minter has a history with the Harbaughs, both in Baltimore and at the University of Michigan. Could he potentially pop up as a head coaching candidate? There's a lot of different directions potentially that both sides can go. The shocking news right now, if you're just tuning in, they are not moving forward together. The Ravens have fired John Harbaugh after 18 years at the helm. This is seismic news right now for the NFL.
It was, and it's really reset the entire hiring cycle, right? He has become, and I know you guys don't care about this, but John has vaulted into top pole position. He's the most coveted, sought-after candidate, and that's the reality of it. But naturally, right, from a Ravens coverage standpoint, we do have to pivot and start to think about what the vision is moving forward. And for those of you that like Kalshi and the analytical part of chances and betting and taking a look at where the Ravens go from here, perhaps you'll enjoy that this is what the list consists of right now in terms of who will be the next permanent head coach in Ravens land. And the early favorite is actually in division. Kevin Stefanski was fired on Black Monday. He leads the way early in this process, at least from a Kalshi standpoint. Brian Flores in second at 17%. Right, by the way, Stefanski's at 21%. Cliff Kingsbury, let go by the Washington Commanders earlier today, offensive coordinator at 13%, previous head coach experience in Arizona. Jesse Minter, who you heard Pelissero mention there, the defensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh in Los Angeles. Would love to hear from you guys in terms of, are you bothered by the potential of sticking with the Harbaugh tree, if you will? He's been in Baltimore. He's been under Jim. Do you want to go down that route? Or do you want a clean slate? Zach Orr and Todd Monken, 3%. You can take them off. Rye Young says, reading the tea leaves, it seems like one of the most important factors will be finding a personality that will mesh with Lamar. Still got to be a head coach. Dark Thunder 35 says the team checked out of Harbaugh after week 1. Their body language from that point was terrible, and Harbaugh was extremely stressed. Albatross says, I want Clint Kubiak or Mike LaFleur. Sean says, remember the power outage? Shaking my head. Aka Fred with $1.99 tonight. And Cabron says, Bobby, is it Cabron? Cabron? Canadian currency. Bobby putting in work for us today. Appreciate you, fam. Appreciate you for being with me late night as we approach midnight. Luis has become a Bobby Baltimorean, which I need to change to a Trosseteer because I like that better. Sticking with candidates. Adam Schefter, Mina Kimes, ESPN earlier tonight.
Going to go on and thrive elsewhere. I expect him to get a head coaching job. I expect him to emerge as a favorite for the New York Giants head coaching job. I expect him to be in demand in other places. Again, as Mina said, he's going to have his choice here of where he wants to go and what he wants to do. And the Ravens felt like it was just time for a fresh start. We've seen this everywhere. We had similar shock when the Patriots moved on from Bill Belichick. This is the biggest coaching move since New England moved on from Bill Belichick, and it's not for altogether dissimilar reasons.
Let's go to that Baltimore job now. I mean, as you said, it's the most appealing one out there. Can you think of any names that would be a good fit for a team like that? The way the roster is comprised with Lamar Jackson as your quarterback.
I would love a defensive coach here, and I'll throw out two names. The first one is Brian Flores. The Minnesota Vikings defense finished third league-wide in DVOA, and the defenses around them, I would say, have considerably more star power, but Flores has been the difference there. The defense in Baltimore has serious issues. They have talent, but I think he could inject some creativity and allow them to improve on that side of the ball in a way that's necessary. I also think Jesse Minter with the Los Angeles Chargers, who is from the Mike McDonald tree, right, in Michigan, would be a good choice. I think he is similarly to Flores, slightly different scheme, but he has done a fantastic job there, again, with some talent limitations, and he has elevated the players. And that's another name I would be looking at if I was Baltimore, and I would go in that direction.
Good names all. Adam, you got any that you can think of?
Yeah, I think Jesse Minter is a spot-on nomination, selection, discussion, because he's been there before, and we've seen Mike McDonald coach in Baltimore and go on to great success in Seattle. That bodes well for Jesse Minter, his candidacy, and I would figure that he would absolutely be a candidate in Baltimore. Another coach that I expect to get interviewed for that job will be the Dolphins defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, who's also spent time in Baltimore before. He will be another name that garners some consideration in Baltimore. We'll see what direction they go, but there's going to be a lot of candidates that want that job, just like there's going to be a lot of teams that want John Harbaugh.
Okay, so some interesting notes there from Schefter, including former defensive line coach Anthony Weaver, who was a part of the historic defensive campaign in 2023 en route to an AFC Championship game appearance. He is expecting him to be interviewed. Same can be said for Jesse Minter under Jim Harbaugh in Los Angeles, who's already been involved with the Ravens organization from an assistant perspective. Anthony is extremely charismatic, very well respected. He's served as the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins in Miami the last couple of years, has a tremendous amount of experience in the NFL as both a coach, now a play caller, and a player in his heyday. And so that's something to watch, perhaps one of those dark horse names, if you will, to watch. That then brings us to the most important component of this entire process, which was hit on by a super chat donor of mine a couple minutes ago. And that's Lamar Jackson. Because clearly, as you read the tea leaves and you listen to Jeff's reporting and you listen to Ian Rappaport's reporting, and you go back to earlier this season when the hit pieces were coming out, anonymous hit pieces through local reporting aimed at Todd Monken, and you think about how much he's abandoned Derrick Henry, and you think about the lack of involvement, whether he was directly involved in this decision or not, of Keaton Mitchell earlier this season, and you name it, there was a disconnect and perhaps malcontent state between the franchise quarterback and the offensive play caller, leading Jeff to say, look, they didn't hate each other. It wasn't untenable, but there was a disconnect. And John Harbaugh had to serve as a buffer between the two. So what should the biggest priority be? Yeah, you want a guy who can run this organization, understands the PR part of being a head coach, has tremendous experience, brings a level of culture setting and an understanding of all three phases. But when it's all said and done, has an understanding for Lamar Jackson. Because pending a contract extension, but with that, this is where English goes below the waist. Assuming that Lamar gets something done, he's going to be in Baltimore for the foreseeable future. And it'll be a failure for anything but that. Listen to Pelissero.
of course, is under contract for multiple seasons still with the Ravens. They had talks with him about a contract extension going back to last summer. With Lamar, he does not have an agent. He has advisors, including his mother. He approaches things from a contractual perspective a little bit differently, which is why it took him as long as he did to get that first contract extension, playing out his rookie deal, playing out the option, getting franchise tagged before agreeing to a deal on the day that the draft began a couple of years ago. For Lamar, he did not answer questions after that loss to the Steelers, saying in part, and I'm sure it was true, he was still in so much shock about losing that game, he wasn't ready to talk about his future or John Harbaugh's future. But for the Ravens, they have been committed to Lamar Jackson. There is no reason at this point to think anything but Lamar Jackson is going to be the Ravens quarterback. So the next question, if that holds true, and Lamar Jackson remains the Ravens quarterback, is how do you put a coaching staff in place that is going to get the most out of Lamar? He, of course, has a very unique skill set when he is healthy. We did not see Lamar fully healthy for very much, if at all, of this season. But, of course, there is a run element that comes with him. He has become one of the better downfield passers in the NFL, has become more accurate the longer that he has been in the NFL. There are going to be a lot of coaches that are very intrigued about Lamar Jackson. Also coaches who are going to have to rethink things because there is not another Lamar Jackson in the entire league. Whatever plan you had to present when you're interviewing for other head coaching jobs, it does not apply, at least from an offensive perspective, to what you're going to do with Lamar. I would fully expect no shortage of candidates to be highly interested in the Ravens vacancy, not just because of the presence of Lamar Jackson, but you have an owner in Steve Bisciotti who has been extraordinarily patient. 18 years is a long time to be the head coach for one franchise. Bisciotti has been patient. That patience ran out today with a coach in John Harbaugh who has delivered so many times in the past, including a Super Bowl win, but in recent years had not had that playoff success. That is why Harbaugh now is out and quite likely going to be a top candidate for other jobs.
And let's be honest, the owner chose the franchise quarterback. That's what you do. Ultimately, that's what you do. And he chose correctly. But Lamar Jackson and his style, his preference, his personality, the working relationship that you foresee him having with the next candidate, with John Harbaugh's successor, has to be at the top of your priority list in making sure that those boxes are checked. Prez Trusty writes, if the Ravens take the offensive head coach route, what's your opinion on Brian Daboll? First of all, I think he's getting interest from Vegas. They went one and done with Pete Carroll, and I guess Tom Brady's going to be heavily involved in that search. But Brian's a tremendous play caller, tremendous offensive mind. Didn't work out for him, obviously, in New York. Underperformed there. But absolutely. As an offensive coordinator? Hell yeah. Oh, you're saying head coach? I wouldn't bring him in as no. I mean, he fits Baltimore better like he did in Buffalo than he does in like a market like New York. But he would be, and he's shooting higher than this probably. But no, he would be more, that for me. I'd be more comfortable as the offensive play caller. Sean says, I'm getting back at the guest lines in just a bit. I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of mush at this point. Sean says EDC probably is going to bring another safety in for the head coach. Akafred says Steve Spagnuolo needs to be looked at. Steve's getting interest, I see, in this hiring cycle. I saw a tweet on that earlier today. He gets interest every single year. Nobody ever takes a chance. Joe writes, are you still live from earlier? No, but it feels like it. Sean writes, maybe we can get some white helmets now. Clint writes, just want it mentioned that Elway had changes at head coach. Manning had changes with 2 franchises. I think things really had run their course, not Lamar's fault. Yeah, this is not surprising at all. This happens. It needed to happen. And I'm not surprised. Again, I'm not surprised it happened. I commend Steve Bisciotti for making what he referred to as an extremely difficult decision. But are any of us truly surprised? I'm not. To the guest lines we go. 60-second timer is back in play. I'm sorry, just because I know I'm going to collapse here at some point soon. So thanks to all the fellas that took part in my massive collective earlier. Not the collective from 8 o'clock, but you know what I mean. Christian, you were chronologically first. So let's bring you in, brother. Appreciate your patience tonight. Your thoughts on what is a historic day for the Baltimore Ravens franchise. Only 3 more minutes left of January 6th. So get your commentary in, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I was in shock today. This is something I've been wanting for a long time. This is something that I have been campaigning for. It's just I didn't expect them to do it. I thought they would have. I mean, I was reading the same reports as everybody else about the Todd Monken situation and thinking he was going to be the scapegoat, and then Orr and Harbaugh were going to end up staying. But I was in complete shock when they made that decision, and I credit Steve Bisciotti for making that decision. But the time had come. It ran its course. It's over with. I mean, this happens. I mean, he's been the coach since 2008. I was born in 2002, so I basically grew up with this guy. It's like time was up. But in terms of a new head coach, each of the candidates this year, to me, have something that I would love, but also something I'm very anemic about, which is like there's Brian Flores, which I would love as a coordinate defense, as a defensive head coach, but he has that stuff that happened with Miami, and a lot of players got turned off of him. There's Jesse Minter, who's a little bit like Harbaugh, and then you also have Clint Kubiak, who I would rather have a defensive-minded head coach, but he's an offensive-minded head coach, and he could unlock this defense. But I don't want to take any more of your time and respect the 30 seconds. But Bobby, I hope you got through today peacefully, and I know this offseason is going to be a big one for you. So good luck,
no
brother.
doubt about that. Great stuff, Christian. Thank you so much for the time tonight, and I appreciate you for holding. Obviously, it's been a busy night in the waiting room, and there's just been a lot to unpack. But I think you hit the nail on the head. John accomplished a lot in Baltimore. That can be true. Him being sought after and a significant candidate at the top of the list for vacancies across the league, it can be true. And what can also be true is that the tandem and the 8 years and the playoff failures and the shortcomings and the game mismanagement and the fourth quarter collapses that became an epidemic had all run its course, and Steve Bisciotti had to make a decision. Back to the guest lines we go. It's all chronologically in terms of how you guys came in tonight, all right? Bentley, thank you for holding, my brother. What's going on?
Hey, now I got to get my camera right. So, I personally think that the DC and Miami should be at least considered because, if I'm not mistaken, he was the assistant head coach here. And I think he has the mentality to keep us on task. That was the biggest problem outside of the DC. Sorry about this camera thing, but I'm not used to holding it.
Now, Bentley, can you say that again, though? Because I fogged out for a second. Who were you
DC from Miami?
Anthony Weaver. He was the assistant head coach. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, he was the assistant head coach. So he's already got the experience with Baltimore. Plus, he was a player here. I think he has the mentality and the mindset to keep the team on task. They already respect. And the loss. I mean, Harbaugh leaving made the loss completely leave my mind. I'm not even thinking about the loss no more.
And that's how it works, right? Now the stage is set for a full off season of new visions, new transparency, new framework, new leadership, new voices. And that's where they stand, right? That's what happens. It does seem like an afterthought, and it's been 48 hours. And with all of that in mind, happy birthday to Lamar Jackson. He just turned 29 a minute ago.
Wow.
So happy birthday to 29-year-old Lamar Jackson, who I'm sure will have something to say the next time he speaks. Thanks, Bentley. Thanks for the call tonight, my man. 29 years old is Lamar Jackson. How ironic that on his birthday, the day after his birthday, this will still be a major, major national storyline. We're just getting started. Sergeant C, you ready to roll? You sure seem like it. Want to show off the traps tonight, huh? Welcome to the program, brother. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I want to say I've been a follower since you did the 5 o'clock in the morning with Sarah. So I've been following you for a while, first time caller. Anyways, I've got a unique name. I'm going to give you some aspects real quick, and then I'll tell you the name. He's an offensive innovator, intense and passionate personality. He's a big advocate of veteran players, has a QB camp mentality, and is big about communication and listening, and he brings a great culture. It's a controversial name, but John Gruden. I've seen him when he does his when he's been talking about Lamar and stuff, the excitement he gets into. I think if you get him with his offensive mind, get him with Lamar Jackson, you have a great offense. I'd be excited to see what they're able to provide. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited. First time. I appreciate you having me.
Sergeant, appreciate you. Thank you. And
thank you.
You still got 10 seconds. I'll just say, John, obviously, to your point, his time in Vegas ended very controversially. He has since made a major splash in the media world. Appreciate you, Sergeant. Thanks for the love, dude. The Morning Vault. You've been there since the Morning Vault times. Amazing. I wonder if John will be interviewed. I really do. Would Steve Bisciotti interview John Gruden? I don't know. His name came up in hiring cycles a year ago and has since quieted. I've seen some interest in the collegiate ranks that folks, again, and sometimes it's hard to measure, right? When a name comes up, is that more of the representation peddling that? Are there favors owed? Like, why is Cliff Kingsbury, for example, garnering all kinds of attention since he was let go earlier today? Like, there's always nuance to understanding how names become hot, so to speak. But knowing that his offensive prowess is Super Bowl caliber, and yeah, he'd be an older candidate. And I'd have to think that at the top of Steve Bisciotti's mind, the next head coach should be and will be in Baltimore for over a decade. That's what you're striving for, right? When you've only had 3 to date in 30 years, meaning 3 head coaches. What's John? John is, I think Harbaugh's 62 and Gruden's 62. There you have it. John will turn 63, Gruden, that is, this upcoming summer. Ed Reed weighed in earlier, the Hall of Famer, the GOAT, the pretty simple message. My coach Harbs. Hashtag Raven, hashtag champions, hashtag building. We know they certainly had an interesting relationship back in the day. We all remember the mutiny. CJ Lavender writes, I don't know his current status, but I wouldn't mind seeing Deion Sanders as head coach. He is a Raven. CJ, did you watch Colorado football this year? Did you? There's no disrespect to Prime. But why is it that you want Deion to come to Baltimore with no previous NFL head coaching experience? Then again, Prime can do whatever the hell he wants, right? Literally, he probably can go run for office and be successful. KP writes, I assume that Bisciotti was so upset that Harb's vision was to run it back that he let him go and was clear with the fans that it wasn't a mutual agreement. The English in the 2 different statements juxtaposed against one another earlier today, one of the most staggering, undeniable realities that I've seen in a while in sports. The team statement from Steve Bisciotti, very telling when you go and read John's. And I'll do that in just a second, just in case you guys haven't seen it. Sean writes, John's gone. Problem solved. Happy birthday to Lamar, who, again, turns 29 today. And you're right, XVYJZ. Harbaugh had no previous head coaching experience. That's correct. When he was hired in 2008, he Special teams was the majority of what he had on his resume at that time, being plucked from Philadelphia. No question. See, I'm getting you guys feathers ruffled after midnight, huh? That's when the filter goes. Pete is in bed. Should we bring him in? Pete, do you have clothes on? Kobe writes, we need a coach with head coaching experience. It's a retool and not a rebuild. Saleh or Flores could come in immediately and create a culture of winning. Here's my thought. The more I think about it, the more I lean into it. The Ravens need someone, and Femi and I spoke about this at length yesterday. The Ravens need someone desperately, who can come in and reinvigorate, reestablish, reinstill what they've built their brand on for 30 years running. Toughness, physicality, hard-hitting, fear, resiliency, defense. As long as you have a quarterback named Lamar Jackson under contract, you're going to put up points. But even the great Lamar Jackson wasn't able to overcome the other side of the football this season. It's time to get back to the drawing board on that front. Reestablish, reinstill, reinvigorate. My pick would be Robert Saleh. The Jets gave him a raw deal. Back to the guest lines. Pete, happy second semester. See you,
What's
pal.
up?
What's going on, brother?
Not much. I'll say I was here at the 5 a.m. Well, I remember being on the school bus, and I was kind of disappointed you guys went to noon because I couldn't listen to it on the school bus in the morning. I was kind of disappointed that I was like a junior or whatever. But I'll say it's a bittersweet day. I'm actually kind of nervous about it because I think of the Jets and how they always struggle or whatever. But at the same time, I have more confidence in our organization being able to do it. But it's also very new because I've never seen a new head coach. So it's just very, I just hope they make the right decision because it all seems very weird how this whole situation's been. And I say that Nick Wright was actually pretty right with some things. Maybe it seemed it was maybe Lamar was mad at Harbaugh instead of Monken. Maybe he was, but maybe it was more like Harbaugh was kind of like the middleman between the two. So like Nick Wright was pretty right.
That's the reporting from Jeff, Rappaport, others that the buffer is what Jeff used as the word that John Harbaugh's role kind of morphed into between Monken and Lamar. And look, I got to know Todd personally a little bit before I left Baltimore, and I think we all did through press conferences and whatnot. And everybody knows Lamar at this point, 8 years into the organization. They're not exactly similar people, similar personalities. And I could see how maybe Lamar wouldn't be the most receptive ever or jive with an old school personality like Todd. Granted, they had a lot of success together. A lot of success. Pete, thanks for the call, brother. Appreciate you. They had a lot of success together. But ultimately, after 3 years, what do you have to show for it? Hardware, wins, but not enough given the transcendent talent that is Lamar Jackson. Kobe writes, we need a coach with head coaching experience. It's a retool and not a rebuild. Saleh or Flores could come in immediately and create a culture of winning. Sean says, can you show us pictures of the candidates? Maybe tomorrow. Blogger says, I hope Steelers fire Tomlin so we can hire him. That would be absurd. Equally as absurd as bringing in Stefanski from Cleveland. Can you guys imagine that scenario? I can't. We talked about it on the collective tonight. I just can't imagine that. I got a lot of respect for Stefanski. I think he overachieved in Cleveland. Yeah, he was below 500 by 11 games over 6 seasons. But he overachieved given the roster, the dysfunction, the Deshaun Watson saga. Joe Flacco led him to the postseason in 2023 when Watson left. Remember when he went down? I remember that. RG3 weighing in, spent several years in Baltimore backing up Lamar. And a cool little photo here. Is that Anthony Levine with him on to RG3's right, our left? I can't tell. That looks like co-cap, doesn't it? Greatest coach in Ravens history, says RG3. Thank you, John Harbaugh, for always having your players back. I watched you for 3 years, never try to change who Lamar Jackson was at his core, but instead put people and a support system around him to lead us to back-to-back AFC North titles and Lamar's first of 2 MVPs. You embodied what it means to play like a Raven. Once a Raven, always a Raven. Strong words there by the former Heisman Trophy winner, the former first-round pick of the then Redskins, who, of course, was brought to Baltimore to back up Lamar, and a great backup was he ever. Fantastic message from RG3. Would like to get him on at some point. Richard says that Tomlin is greater than Harbs. The series record would tell you that was the case, by the way. And Tomlin, of course, got the last one. Maybe not the last if both remain in the NFL. And John's clearly going to be in the NFL for the foreseeable future. He's got like 7 teams lining up for him. But by record, yes, Mike Tomlin had the edge over John in 40 regular season and playoff games that these two matched up. 30 of those were decided by 8 points or less. 20 were decided by 3 points or less. Yankees Red Sox-esque in terms of just how legendary, iconic that storied rivalry was/is. What's going on, Andrew? Welcome to the program, brother. What you got for me tonight?
Thanks for having me on. So here's a couple of names I was thinking of that nobody's really talking about. I think if we bring in maybe a Marcus Freeman out of Notre Dame, or even bringing up a Lincoln Riley. I know some people don't necessarily want a college coach, but I just think some new blood outside of the Harbaugh tree would be better.
Marcus is a hot name. Hot name. Did make the announcement within the last couple of weeks after they ignored or turned down bowl eligibility after being left out of the playoff that he's staying. But obviously things change. If you're Steve, you probably want to place a call, have a conversation at the very least. The guy is charismatic.
And
Marcus Freeman is a leader of young men.
I think we need to get back to that tough defense that Baltimore has been known for. We don't have that anymore. Our coverage looks soft. The hits look soft. We're getting burnt, half of the game. I don't remember Baltimore 5 years ago giving up 5 touchdowns. This is crazy to me.
Yeah. Brent Urban, longtime Raven, multiple stints in Baltimore. Andrew, thanks for the call, brother. Appreciate you, man. Brent Urban, who knows? This could be his final year in Baltimore. An hour ago tweeted, "Much love to Harbs, the best head coach I ever had. It was an honor and a privilege." Boy, was he good, though, the other night, wasn't he? Wasn't he the one on the stop in that first tush push that the Hayward brothers tried? Pretty sure he was. Good for Brent, still playing at a high level. Shockwave Truth, you with me, brother? You want to come on the program? I woke you up, didn't I? Thanks for being with me late night, dude. Give me your thoughts.
Oh, man. Hey, Bobby, man. It's been a long time coming, man. Congratulations to Harbaugh. He did real good, but the time was needed. And moving forward, I think that the guys offensively, if we go with a defensive coordinator like Flores, I'll go with him, or Salah. But offensive coordinator, I think the guy they should go after that's really would like to burn some people is the one that was at Kansas City. He the running back coach for the Bears right now. He never got the head coach's position. He was the enemy.
Yeah.
I think they would bring him in offensively to be the coordinator, but either with Flores or Salah as the head coach. But thanks for the work, man, and have a good one.
You too. Thanks for the call, Shockwave. Joining me late night. Schefter earlier on tweeted that Anthony Weaver is expected to be interviewed, former defensive line coach. Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator in Seattle, is garnering a lot of attention. And Brian Nemhauser, who covers Seattle, put together a very, very lengthy commentary on what he's observed about Clint Kubiak. Just 1 year in Seattle, and they're going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC under second-year head coach Mike McDonald. So here's Brian's thoughts on Clint Kubiak, a potential candidate for the Ravens. Good human, family man, check. Has spent his life around not just football, but the NFL. He won't be surprised by what it means to be a head coach. Check. Even keel. Never gets too high or too low on the field or off. Players confirm he's the same guy every day. Check. Tireless worker, puts in ton of hours. Never thinks he's got it all figured out. Check. Comes with a complete system/scheme. He is unapologetic about being an outside zone team with counters off of it. Excellent at details in play action to marry the run and pass. Creates early down explosives while always staying committed to the run. Smart with formations, personnel, and motion. Forces defenses to decide between matching heavy personnel or protecting explosives. Outsmarts himself at times. Trick plays in the middle of a series where the offense is already running smoothly. Play action on short yardage when running has been successful. So some knocks here. Not a dynamic personality. He is genuine in who he is, but he's not a guy who is going to command a room. This is probably the biggest question mark for any team hiring him. Think Jason Garrett or his father, Gary Kubiak. Has not been in the same spot as an offensive coordinator 2 years in a row due to his head coach getting fired. Makes him unproven in terms of staying power as a play caller and as someone who can develop talent over time. Brian Nemhauser covers the Seattle Seahawks. There you have it. At Hawk Blogger. And for those of you that wanted a visual of a couple candidates, there is young offensive mind Clint Kubiak, son of Gary, just in case you guys were curious. Back to the guest lines we go. But first, let me just make sure I'm caught up on Super Chats. Kobe writes, Saleh won't have the problem he had with the Jets, which was finding a good offensive coordinator to coach bad quarterbacks. He'll have his pick of offensive minds wanting to coach number 8. Hell yeah. They'll be lining up at the door. Richard says Hamlin is greater than Hamlin. It's time to go to bed. Tomlin is greater than Harbs. He has our number with no quarterback. The fact that Tomlin went 10-7 this year, really the last couple of years, and has not, as a franchise, adequately replaced Ben Roethlisberger, and yet still consistently remains in it. If he gets canned, there'll be even more lining up at the door, just like the way they are John Harbaugh right now. Saif, you still with me? Hopefully I didn't totally botch your pronunciation there.
It's safe. I get safe all the time, though.
Safe. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the program.
How you doing, man?
It's good to see you. Thanks for staying up late with us.
Yeah, I'm in Houston, so Central Time.
Oh, good.
I got an hour on you guys.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's just it's a crossroads for Bisciotti and the franchise, really, in terms of the model of CEO as a head coach. Like, we've got a golden opportunity with the head coach spot to keep attracting. Like, if it doesn't pan out, which probabilities are that elite play callers, creative play callers, consistently, creative play callers don't necessarily just grow on trees. So you may have to cycle through 1 or 2 coaches before you really strike something even close to like a McVay or a Shanahan type play caller. So I think it's really should be used. The spot really should be used to attract elite offensive play calling talent while Lamar is still physically relevant.
Good stuff, Safe. Thanks, brother. Appreciate the call.
Problem.
Wish I had that Central Time right now, too. I need it. Chef, you going to bring us home, Chef? Appreciate you guys for being with me tonight. Over 3,000 concurrents and counting between both platforms. Let's bring this thing home. Do it.
Well, I know I've been calling for Harbaugh's job for a while, and then now that it actually came through today and everything, I mean, it's bittersweet because I mean, again, he got us a Super Bowl. Forever grateful for that. He brought a lot of stability, despite what everyone thinks. I mean, he brought a lot of stability. He is a good coach, a CEO type, yeah, and whatnot. But it's run its course here in Baltimore.
Yep.
But the thing that I'm looking towards now is that there is a lot of pressure on EDC, Bisciotti, and whatnot to bring in the right guy this time for head coach. Because if they bring in the wrong guy, what he has about like 2 years or so until they move on from him. And then by that time, we might be looking at a full rebuild. I mean, Lamar's not getting any younger. I've said that before, as well as our other stars. Their contracts are not getting any cheaper. If they don't get it right this time around, take their time, whether it's Flores, Sala, whoever, we might be looking at a rebuild, and that Super Bowl window might be closed.
See, I'm glad you called in because this is going to be the story tomorrow that I'm going to ask probably the vault next time I'm live because I'm literally starting to like break down right now. Does it feel as satisfying as you thought it would? And for you right now in the wee hours in vulnerable state, it sounds like it's a no.
In a way, it does feel satisfying because we've talked about it before, where you have the 18 blown leads in the fourth quarter, the coaching, the confusing coaching decisions, where it's like, why was Keaton Mitchell on the bench in the first quarter of the season, or other stuff where like you have your Harbaugh guys and then you have the Harbaugh doghouse. So it's like plenty of things like that are just frustrating to where you're like, this can't be a thing. This needs to go because it's stifling the progress of the team. We weren't getting better. We plateaued. But at the same time, I guess it's more the whole danger of the unknown, where it's like, well, shit, now now you don't have that dance partner anymore, and you're gonna have to figure it out. So yeah, it's a bit of both worlds, but again, I'm excited for what the Ravens are gonna look like come this training camp and stuff, what the offense is gonna look like, what the defense is gonna look like. But you can't stress the importance enough of that. If you do not get this decision right, we're going to be looking at a possible rebuild because we won't be able to pay all these big contracts for these cornerstone guys. So that's just where I stand. I support the decision. I will also say, for the Ravens organization, they really dropped the ball. As much as the fans were saying, fire John Harbaugh, blah, blah, whatever, we pride ourselves on being a positive, like a good organization that people want to come to. So I think they absolutely should let John Harbaugh say his farewells to his staff and whatnot.
The reports out there are really something. And Jeff did not mince words on the collective tonight that the way this ended is not how John Harbaugh had it planned, is not the most Raven-like way that how it unfolded. And I think without saying it, John Harbaugh's statement told you everything you needed to know.
Yeah.
So there will be plenty more. Appreciate you, brother. And reality's starting to set in, right? And it does bring a level of urgency from a fan base standpoint, knowing that this is a consequential decision that's looming for Steve Bisciotti. So thanks, Chef. Appreciate you. Couple closing super chats before we get on out of here. I got to start preparing for the vault. Just kidding. I'm going to go to sleep. Greg says, I say bring in Bill Belichick. He's from Maryland and will bring instant credibility. You want somebody that's going to, Greg, you want somebody that's going to be here for like the next decade, though. I mean, shit. With a 24-year-old girlfriend, maybe he will be around the next decade feeling like he's 25. What do you think she's like after hours? Dark Thunder 35 says the only college coaches to consider is Marcus Freeman and Mike Shanahan, the offensive coordinator from Indiana, and no coaches collecting Social Security checks. Sweetie says grass isn't always greener. Lamar is not consistent and getting hurt more and more. I hope it's worth it. Should prepare for a developed quarterback behind Lamar. I mean, come on, chat. Like, Bill is what, 70? You know he's not feeling like he's 70 plus years old right now. Not only is he a college coach for the first time ever, but he's dating somebody whose sex drive is through the roof. He's 73. He turned 74 in April. Jordan is 24, 25. I mean, shit, here I am, like, updating my Hinge age radius the other day, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to narrow my search a little bit. And I ended up going like 23 to 27 rather than like 24 to 31. And even in my mind, I was like, is that too young? What do you think Bill feels like? Greg says Belichick can bridge us to the next young coaching prodigy while keeping us winning. Can you imagine if Bill becomes the next head coach of the Ravens? This is going to be fascinating. This is just fascinating to see how Steve handles this. Does he already have a hand select guy? Is he going to do what John Harbaugh did and cast a ridiculously wide net in the search process with Todd Monken a few years ago? Remember, there were a lot of people that interviewed for that job. Cliff Kingsbury was one of them. Dave Canales. God, who else? Who else did they interview that year? Those are the two names that stick out, though. Sean says, feel like we won the Super Bowl. What the hellion, baby? I don't even know what hellion is, Sean, because I'm having a hard time processing English right now. Evan says that Bobby Cooper DeJean's dating a 44-year-old, bro. I went out with a 38-year-old the other night. She was fun. Not like that, but she was cool. Very nice. Let's see here. TJ says, my wife said, does Bobby ever sleep? TJ's wife, not enough for my mother's liking, not enough for my brain power at the moment. I am not going to work out tomorrow. That reminds me, I got to take myself off the wait list for tomorrow's workout. That wouldn't be good for anybody. Oh, by the way, I think you guys heard earlier this week when I was just talking off the cuff, out of turn, that I have a gym crush. Let's see. I'm waitlisted for tomorrow. It's upper body tomorrow. I really wanted to go to this. 15th on the wait list. I'm not getting off the wait list. I'm canceling this shit. But my gym crush, let me tell you. My gym crush liked my Instagram story tonight. So you're saying there's a chance? She is my carbon copy of what I'm looking for. But I just got intel from another dude at the gym that I've befriended. I shouldn't be talking about this right now. That she's recently single, but like really recently single. But the energy is undeniable. Like before class, after class, mid-class, whether it's eye contact, little interactions. Going into Christmas week, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to follow her. I'm going to follow her on Instagram. So I did. Then the likes and the stories started happening. Then she slid into the DMs. It inspired an entire conversation. And then I basically like stuck my neck out there and asked her what her schedule is. But at the time, I was in New York, and she was in New Hampshire, where she's originally from. I got to stop talking, just in case somebody's watching this. So I feel like that's what I've done in the past, like totally just like shoot myself in the foot, just over talking, and then it just doesn't help anybody, doesn't serve anybody besides the entertainment that maybe you guys are getting right now in this moment. Anyway, I think she's future Mrs. Trosset. I do. I'm hoping that something comes to fruition there. Prez says we need a crash out at head coach. Sharon Moore is just that. Can you believe he was DMing OnlyFans models like at halftime of games and shit? It's insane. Greg writes, here's an interesting one. Bring back Rex Ryan. I think Rex may have burned a bridge with the entire Ravens organization for the way that he criticizes them on TV. And not that, most of the time it's true, but most of the time it's like way over the top. Evan says, what's with all the unks in the chat naming coaches from a decade ago that aren't relevant at all? Gruden, Rex, Belichick, Saban. Who's next? Bill Cowher? Yeah, I agree with that to a degree. I do. You want somebody that's going to be at the helm, healthy, aware, relatable for the next 10 plus years, which is why, like, had John Harbaugh, had it not run its course and had Zach had more time, had they chosen someone else besides Zach after the 23 season and allowed Zach to continue to grow and develop and mature, that he would have been, on paper, a fantastic coach to groom. But instead, even though he has such a phenomenal future, I just think it was too premature. It's Robert Saleh for me, guys. That's where I'm at. Evan's pissed off. I don't know why. I got nothing left in me. I got to go. I'm going to go attempt to sleep. And the vault will go on tomorrow at noon. It's been an insane week. What day is it? It's Lamar's birthday. It's the 7th of January. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Today's Wednesday. Yeah, today's Wednesday. So in 11 and a half hours, I'll have another episode of the vault for you. Sarah's out all week. I'm gonna do my best to track down as much as I won't be alone. I won't be alone tomorrow in the noon hour, just to be clear. So I'm looking forward to that. Guys, if you haven't already done so, I'd love for you to join the Discord group. It's a 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports. The end of season press conference will happen at some point, but I don't know what their plan is. Like, do they want to quickly make a hire and then have that be their presser with DaCosta, perhaps with Steve? Do they want to do something before the week's over with Steve and Eric, with team president Sashi Brown? How do they want to handle that? And just how much of a level of urgency do they have? How rushed are they? Are they going to take their time? Wild card weekend's coming up in a few days. They have time. There are still coaches they may want to talk to that are in the postseason. So I'll be very interested to see how that all plays out. Discord link, it's free. There's over 1,100 members and counting. It's growing. It's a great 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports. A lot of chatter, a lot of content, a lot of friendships. Thanks to Preston Automotive Group for the continued support of the program. You can scan the QR code in the upper right-hand corner if you're in the market for a new or pre-owned vehicle. And just some sappy closing comments from me, because this was pretty special today. It's bittersweet for John Harbaugh, obviously, his wife Ingrid, his daughter Ellison. 18 years is 18 years. He accomplished a lot in Baltimore. There's no question about any of that. I got to know him personally during my time in radio. I was just getting my career started in Baltimore, and it was an honor. It was an absolute honor to cover John Harbaugh. And I think you can be complimentary of him. You can be fond of him. You can think the world of him. You can wish him luck moving forward and still know that at the end of the day, a hard decision was made today by a team owner that chose his quarterback, by a team owner that saw that the writing was on the wall, and by a team owner that stood tall in what he felt like was the best vision forward, the best change, the necessary evil that is change at times, that best serves the organization moving forward. And that is what Steve Bisciotti chose to do today to the second longest tenured head coach in the National Football League, who leaves as a future Hall of Famer, who leaves as someone who is a Super Bowl champion, someone that built his organization and was willing, when no other team was in the first round, to take a chance on that Heisman Trophy winning quarterback out of Louisville. Somebody that was a tremendous culture setter, hiring manager, CEO, special teams guru, that obviously was without his shortcomings as well. We all know what those are. We know them well. And we know that more so than anything else, it's an exciting time that no longer is change on the horizon. Change is here, and it's here to stay. And now, Steve Bisciotti and company are tasked with the biggest decision in recent memory in Ravens history. Hiring just the fourth head coach in the 30 years of this franchise's existence. And for that, buckle up, because there is a lot more to come. And I'll be back tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern, inside the vault, day number 2 of the post-John Harbaugh era, which is essentially day number 1. The first full day number 1 is coming up tomorrow. I look forward to catching up with you guys then. Like the video on your way out if you could. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or a gift-giving membership. I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for the support. Longest day of my professional life. Gratifying. Appreciative of all of you. I'll see you tomorrow.